About a year ago, I built a deck and I had about 12 posts that I had to notch. We notched the posts and set the stringers in the post. And so typically with making a notch, I'll use a skill saw to score basically whatever I'm notching. And then you come back, you know, knock out the pieces and then use a chisel to go in there and clean the rest of your notch out. But after I notched about 5 or 6 posts, I was like, there's got to be an easier, quicker way. So I tried one of these, a little oscillating tool to clean the notches out, and it worked very, very well. So I'm going to cut one traditionally and clean it up with a chisel and a hammer, and then I'm going to use the oscillating saw to clean the other up, and you can make a judgment call, but that works really well. And if you never cleaned your notches up with an oscillating tool, you might ought to try it. I'll get set up and we'll get going. All right, I'm gonna notch for a 2x4. So basically I need to come down 3.5 inches, the thickness. I typically will leave the top of my post down probably a 1/16 so it's not protruding. So I'll get that measurement, and then my first shoulder cut, I always like to use take my skill saw and I'll take a speed square, but I basically, whatever distance I want, I'll reference the width from my blade over to the edge of my plate, and then that's what I'll lay my speed square down. We'll make the first cut and then we can notch it the rest of the way out. I'll get set up and we'll cut one. I'm going to time it with a chisel and then we'll time it with the oscillating saw and see which one's more effective. All right, that's roughed in. It had a couple knots in it, so that makes it tough. But we're not building fine furniture here, but we'll check and see what our fit looks like. We are pretty decent. We got a little deep here, but when you get those knots and that grain run, sometimes you'll get it. But from a framing standpoint, I mean, you can live with that. We left it just a little short here. That way this protrudes, but there's a notch with a chisel and I can live with that. From a framing a deck, I can live with that. I'm gonna cut the end of this off and then we'll cut one and clean it up with oscillating saw and see how we do. All right, I do realize, and I've done it before, is, you know, when you're trying to clean these notches up, just take, you know, raise your guard on your saw and use it to come across and clean it. I think they call that I've heard it called the Polish plane before. So you can do it that way, but when you're on the end, it's hard to keep that blade, you know, level and true. When you're in the center, it's easier because you can reference the top of your post. But all right. I'm going to use the oscillating saw this go around, and let's see if it's any more efficient using this to clean this notch up, or we're better off to use the chisel. All right, let's see how we did. You can get a sort of a look at that. I'll flip us over. You sort of get a look of what kind of edge you get, and then let's see what it looks like with a little material in there. But for just freehand with a little oscillating saw, That's a pretty slick notch, and it's quick. So anyway, if you need to cut a bunch of notches and you want a quicker way to do it, the little oscillating saw works really well. Well, hopefully that little tip helped somebody out. I know it saved me some time in the past. So if you watched, I appreciate it. And if you've not seen any of our videos before, we've bought some property and we're in the process of essentially developing it. We've got roads cut in, or one road cut in, and utilities are roughed in. We're going to build a pole barn and then build a house, and I'm going to sort of video the whole process from start to finish. It's rained on us the last week or so. We've had wet weather, so that's sort of slowed down progress. I've not been able to do much up there, but if you watched, I appreciate it, and if you want to follow along, we'll bring you along for the ride. We'll catch you on the next one.